but I couldn't have asked for any more of anyone this week. And for that reason, I feel happy. But now, is between now and next camp, got to analyse all the things we've got to get absolutely right leading into the Olympics.
All right, Lily Yohannes, just 16 years old. Should we be talking about her and an Olympic roster spot, or do you think it's too much too soon?
You know what's unfortunate here is that we're talking about, can she make a roster of 18? Because I fully believe if it was 23, 26, she would be on that roster. And that is a damn shame. It's a damn shame for her. It's a damn shame for the players and their health. It's a damn shame for Emma Hayes that she's going to decide. Lily's at the point right now where she's the perfect prototype of the player that the U.S. should be looking for, should be developing. And what I say about that is, for the longest time, the U.S. women's national team has had a leg up with Title IX. And they were the premier players in the world. They're no longer the premier players in the world. We've already spoken about how development, that gap is not only closed. Emma Hayes has said that, if anything, it's the U.S. that needs to catch up now. Well, these players around the world in Europe, they have facilities, they've got training methods, they've got resources because of some of those men's programs, better coaching than the players in the U.S. You look at a player like Lily, whose father got a job in the Netherlands. At 10, she moved out there. By the time she was 13, she was in a famed youth development system of Ajax. By the time she's 15, she signs her first professional contract. At 16, she is playing. So would I take her in an ideal world? Yes, because you're not the only one looking at her. The Netherlands are also looking at her. If there's a chance to lose what could be a generational talent, you have to act, you have to move. I've seen this happen on the men's side. You remember Giuseppe Rossi? I've seen players like this slip the U.S. program, go by. I don't want to see it happen to the U.S. Emma Hayes shouldn't cap her, but certainly there's a part of Emma Hayes that feels, because she brought her in, that she can be of use to the U.S. women's national team. At 16 years old, that's not normal here in the States. It may be normal in Europe. It's not normal here. It's unfortunate that we're talking about 18 roster spots and not more.
Yeah, I don't think we should overlook how crazy it is that this is even a discussion. The last teenager to break through on the U.S. women's national team was, well, then Mallory Pugh, now Mallory Swanson. And that was a totally different situation. This player has come out of basically nowhere in the last few months as far as the senior national team is concerned. Here's why I think, Herc, she's got a real good shot. One, I don't think you're getting run this close to a major tournament when the coach is coming in and needs to quickly evaluate people and get up to speed. If there's not something that the coach sees beyond the future, in the immediate future as far as a role. We also know Emma Hayes very much values players who can do it and have done it over in Europe. That's a big thing for her. That's the theater she came from. And if you'll remember, Chelsea actually faced Ajax in the Champions League. So she's had a chance to see Yohannes at work. The other thing here is she's a midfielder. And if we know anything about the U.S. dysfunctionality, Herc, over the last 2-3 years, it's that midfield could never get going. And I think this player brings you a little bit in terms of what that midfield needs in attack. You could see some of the deep-lying balls that she could play through were really classy. But then also, Herc, something we talked about on the last episode of Futbol Americas when we had Check the Mentions, and somebody wrote in talking about, was this team going to have a player who could physically give you that edge? Yohannes has skill. She has class. But she is a massive player, and already at 16, you could see there were a couple plays against the South Korean players where she knew how to use her body and really be a physical presence. I think those are things you cannot pass up. We talked about it. U.S. really hasn't had that in the midfield since Julie Ertz. I think this player at 16 has not just a shot to make the roster, Herc. Call me crazy. Maybe even start in the Olympics. That's as much about her as it is about the midfield right now for the United States, but I was very, very impressed with what we saw, even in the just few short minutes we got against South Korea.
Absolutely. And maybe it is an indictment on that midfield and what you don't have anymore. You mentioned the presence of Julie Ertz. You really don't have anybody that commands that midfield, that has that presence about them. And if at 16 you've got a player that's showing you the ability, the range, the vision that you've not had or seen, forget at that age. Are in your pool at any moment in recent history, you've got to act on that urge. And I repeat, the U.S. women's national team isn't the only one monitoring her. So it could behoove them to act.
Yep. Youngest player to really break into the team basically in 20 years. I mean, it's that long since we've seen a 16-year-old do this with the U.S. women's national team. That's the last few games for this international window. Next up for the United States against Mexico on July 13th, and then on July 16th against Costa Rica. After that, on to the Olympics.